Imagine hiking through an ordinary landscape when, without warning, you come face to face with a rock that looks exactly like a giant mushroom or a perfectly balanced boulder that seems to ignore the laws of physics. At first glance, you'd probably assume someone carved it. But the truth is, even more incredible. Across our planet, nature has spent millions, sometimes even billions, of years sculpting enormous stones into shapes so strange and so precise that they often look like works of art rather than products of geology. Some resemble ocean waves, frozen in time. Others look like prehistoric creatures, ancient monuments, or gigantic sculptures left behind by a forgotten civilization. Today, we're counting down 7 of the world's most extraordinary rock formations, places so breathtaking that they challenge everything we think we know about the power of nature. And make sure you stay until the very end, because our final destination features 3 enormous stone giants that appear to be swimming across the mountaintops, creating one of the most unforgettable landscapes on Earth. Let's begin. Number 7. Mushroom Rock State Park. If someone showed you a photograph of these rocks without any explanation, you'd probably think they belonged in a fantasy movie. Scattered across the rolling plains of central Kansas, Mushroom Rock State Park is home to a collection of enormous stone formations that look remarkably like giant mushrooms rising from the ground. Some stand more than 7 feet tall, with massive rounded caps resting on surprisingly narrow stems. From certain angles, they appear almost impossible to support, as though a single strong gust of wind could send thousands of pounds of rock crashing to the earth. Yet these formations have stood here for millions of years. Their unusual appearance is the result of differential erosion. The broad caps consist of extremely hard sandstone and conglomerate, while the softer layers beneath gradually wore away under centuries of wind, rain, and changing temperatures. Nature patiently carved away everything that wasn't strong enough to survive. The result is a landscape unlike almost anywhere else in North America. Long before tourists discovered the park, Native American tribes and early settlers used these towering stones as natural landmarks while crossing the Kansas prairie. Even today, visitors often describe the experience as walking through an outdoor sculpture garden where every piece was designed by time itself. It serves as a remarkable reminder that sometimes the greatest artist isn't human creativity. It's millions of years of relentless natural forces working one grain of sand at a time. Number 6. Manpupuner Hidden. Deep within Russia's remote Ural Mountains lies one of the least-known geological wonders on this list. Unlike famous rock formations that attract millions of visitors every year, the Manpupuner remain largely untouched, giving them an atmosphere of mystery that's difficult to describe. Rising as high as 130 feet above the surrounding landscape, these towering granite pillars resemble enormous statues, silently watching over the forest below. From a distance, some appear to have human faces. Others resemble giant animals or ancient guardians frozen in place. The illusion is so convincing that local legends have flourished for generations. According to regional folklore, these stone figures were once powerful spirits, or even people, who were transformed into rock after defying ancient gods. Whether anyone believes the stories or not, it's easy to understand why they began. When mist drifts through the mountains, and the fading evening light casts long shadows across the granite, the entire landscape feels almost alive. Scientifically, the explanation is much simpler, but no less fascinating. Over countless millennia, freezing winters, heavy snowfall, rainfall, and relentless winds slowly sculpted the granite into its present forms. The process was incredibly slow, almost impossible to notice within a human lifetime. Yet given enough time, nature transforms solid mountains into what looks like an open-air gallery of monumental sculptures. It's one of those rare places where science explains how something formed, but never quite explains why it feels so magical. Number 5. Wave Rock. At first glance, it looks as though someone pressed pause on the ocean millions of years ago. Rising from the heart of Western Australia's outback, Wave Rock is one of the most recognizable geological landmarks on Earth. Standing nearly 50 feet high and stretching more than 360 feet across, this massive granite wall curves forward with astonishing precision, creating the unmistakable shape of a giant wave just moments before it crashes. It's so perfectly formed that many first-time visitors struggle to believe it's completely natural. But this incredible wave wasn't created by water, it was created by time. Scientists estimate that the granite itself is around 2.7 billion years old, making it one of the oldest exposed rock formations on the planet. Over countless ages, rainwater slowly seeped into tiny cracks beneath the surface, while wind and weather gradually wore away softer sections of the rock. Little by little, the landscape changed. What remained was a graceful curve, so smooth and symmetrical that it almost seems impossible for nature alone to have produced it. Even its colors tell a story. The streaks of gray, orange, brown, and black that flow across the surface are caused by minerals reacting with water over thousands of years. Every rainfall adds another tiny chapter to a geological masterpiece that has been evolving since long before humans ever walked the earth. Today, thousands of travelers make the journey into the Australian wilderness simply to stand beneath this enormous stone wave. Some pose as if they're surfing it. Others simply stop and stare. Because no matter how many photographs you've seen, nothing compares to standing beneath a formation that makes solid granite appear as fluid as the sea itself. Wave rock reminds us that nature doesn't always need earthquakes or volcanic eruptions to create something extraordinary. Sometimes, patience alone is enough. Number 4. Krishna's Butterball. Imagine standing beneath a granite boulder, weighing nearly 250 tons, resting on a steep hillside as though it's ready to roll away at any second. Most people instinctively take a step back. After all, everything about this enormous rock suggests that gravity should have pulled it downhill long ago. Yet it hasn't moved. Not yesterday, not centuries ago, not for well over 1,000 years. Located in the ancient coastal town of Mahabalipuram in southern India, Krishna's Butterball is one of the world's greatest geological mysteries. Measuring roughly 20 feet high and balanced on a surprisingly small contact point, the giant granite boulder appears to defy common sense. Its unusual name comes from Hindu mythology, where Lord Krishna was said to have loved stealing butter as a child. Locals believe the enormous rock resembled a giant ball of butter that had somehow fallen from the heavens and become permanently frozen in place. The legends only add to its mystery. Historical accounts even suggest that during the early 1900s, local authorities attempted to move the boulder because they feared it might eventually slide downhill. According to the story, 7 elephants were brought in to push it. Despite their combined strength, the rock didn't budge even an inch. Whether every detail of that story is true or not, one fact remains undeniable. The boulder is still there today. Earthquakes, monsoon rains, tropical storms, and centuries of natural weathering have all failed to dislodge it. Scientists explain that its stability comes from a combination of weight distribution, friction, and the shape of the underlying granite surface. But even with that explanation, standing beside Krishna's Butterball still feels strangely surreal. It looks impossible, and perhaps that's exactly why millions of people continue making the journey to see it every year. Some places impress you because they're enormous, others because they're beautiful. Krishna's Butterball fascinates people for a much simpler reason. It makes you question your own eyes. Number 3. Pedra do Chapéu do Sol. Some rock formations are impressive because of their size. Others leave people speechless because they simply don't look possible. Hidden in the countryside of Ceará, in northeastern Brazil, stands one of South America's most unusual geological wonders, Pedra do Chapéu do Sol, or the Sun Hat Rock. From a distance, it looks exactly like an enormous stone hat balanced delicately on a narrow pedestal. Its broad, flat top stretches several feet beyond its base, creating the illusion that the entire formation could topple over with the slightest push. But appearances can be deceiving. This remarkable granite formation has remained standing for millions of years. Like many of nature's greatest sculptures, its shape wasn't carved overnight. Wind, rain, intense heat, and dramatic temperature changes slowly eroded the softer rock beneath the surface, while the harder granite above resisted the constant attack of the elements. Little by little, century after century, the lower layers disappeared faster than the upper ones. Eventually, nature revealed what now looks like a perfectly balanced stone umbrella rising from the landscape. The formation stands roughly 10 feet tall and measures over 13 feet across, making it one of the most photographed natural landmarks in Brazil's Cariri region. Artists, photographers, hikers, and geology enthusiasts travel from across the country to witness it firsthand. Yet what fascinates most visitors isn't simply the rock itself. It's the question that immediately comes to mind. How is it still standing? The answer lies in patience, rather than mystery. Nature isn't in a hurry. Given enough time, even the hardest granite can be transformed into something that appears almost impossible. Pedra do Chapéu do Sol is proof that millions of years of quiet erosion can produce a masterpiece that rivals anything built by human hands. Number 2. Moeraki Boulders. Imagine walking along a quiet beach at sunrise. The waves gently roll onto the sand. Seabirds glide overhead, and scattered across the shoreline are dozens of enormous stone spheres, each so perfectly round that they look as though giant creatures once laid them there. Welcome to the Moeraki Boulders, one of New Zealand's most famous natural wonders. Some of these incredible boulders measure more than 6 feet across and weigh several tons. Yet what surprises visitors most isn't their size, it's their shape. Perfect spheres are incredibly rare in nature. At first glance, they almost appear to be man-made sculptures or oversized cannonballs abandoned centuries ago. Others compare them to dinosaur eggs or mysterious relics from a lost civilization. The reality, however, is even more fascinating. These remarkable stones began forming around 60 million years ago, deep beneath the ancient seabed. Minerals slowly gathered around small fragments of shells or organic material, building layer upon layer over millions of years in a process known as concretion. Eventually, coastal erosion exposed them, allowing the Pacific Ocean to gradually wash away the surrounding cliffs and reveal the massive stone spheres we see today. Some boulders have cracked open naturally, exposing intricate crystal-filled interiors that resemble giant geodes. Others remain perfectly sealed, preserving the mystery hidden inside. The changing tides transform the landscape throughout the day. At high tide, the boulders seem to emerge from the ocean like forgotten monuments rising from the sea. At low tide, visitors can walk among them, touch their smooth surfaces, and truly appreciate the incredible forces that created them. Few places on Earth blur the line between geology and imagination, quite like the Moeraki Boulders. They remind us that sometimes nature doesn't need sharp peaks or towering cliffs to leave us in awe. Sometimes, a perfectly shaped stone, resting quietly on a beach, can be just as unforgettable. Number 1. 3 Whale Rocks. If someone showed you an aerial photograph of this place without telling you where it was, you might think it had been digitally created. 3 enormous stone shapes rest side by side on the edge of a mountain ridge, surrounded by an endless sea of green forest. From above, they look astonishingly like 3 giant whales swimming peacefully through the landscape. This is 3 Whale Rocks, or Hin Sam Wan, one of Thailand's most spectacular geological landmarks. Located in Bueng Kan province near the border with Laos, these massive sandstone formations have become one of Southeast Asia's most unforgettable natural attractions. The largest of the 3 stretches nearly 250 feet in length, making it roughly the size of a 25-story building laid on its side. Standing beside it is impressive. Seeing it from the sky is unforgettable. The resemblance to a family of whales is so striking that it's difficult to believe the formations weren't intentionally sculpted. But just like every other wonder on this list, nature deserves all the credit. Over millions of years, layers of sandstone were gradually shaped by rainfall, shifting temperatures, and relentless erosion. Softer sections slowly disappeared, while harder rock resisted the elements, leaving behind the smooth, rounded forms that define the landscape today. What makes Hin Sam Wan even more remarkable is its setting. The rocks overlook an endless canopy of tropical forest that stretches to the horizon, creating one of the most breathtaking panoramic views in Thailand. At sunrise, golden light spills across the sandstone, while a blanket of mist drifts through the valleys below. For a few magical moments, it almost feels as though the 3 stone whales are floating above a sea of clouds. Visitors often arrive before dawn just to witness this extraordinary sight. Some come for the photographs, others come simply to experience the silence. Because once you're standing there, surrounded by nothing but mountains, forests, and sky, it's impossible not to feel incredibly small. Three whale rocks are more than just a geological curiosity. They're a reminder that nature doesn't simply create landscapes. It creates illusions, works of art, and moments that stay with us long after we've returned home. Our planet has spent billions of years shaping itself into something far more extraordinary than we often realize. Every cliff, every canyon, and every mountain tells a story written not in words, but in stone. From the towering mushroom-shaped rocks of Kansas to the mysterious granite guardians hidden deep within Russia's Ural Mountains, from Australia's frozen stone wave to India's gravity-defying balancing boulder, from Brazil's remarkable sun hat rock to New Zealand's perfectly rounded Moeraki Boulders, and finally, to Thailand's breathtaking three whale rocks. Each of these places reminds us that nature is both an artist and an engineer, on a scale beyond human imagination. What makes these formations truly special isn't just how unusual they look, it's the incredible amount of time behind them. Millions of years of wind, rain, heat, cold, and the quiet, patient forces of erosion working together to create masterpieces that no human hand could ever reproduce. Perhaps that's why standing before these natural wonders feels so different from visiting any man-made monument. They weren't built, they were earned. Slowly, patiently, one grain of rock at a time. So, which of these incredible rock formations amazed you the most? Was it the perfectly balanced Krishna's Butterball, the mysterious Anasla rocks, or the breathtaking three whale rocks rising above the forests of Thailand? Let us know your favorite in the comments below. And if you enjoyed exploring these incredible geological wonders with us, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Every week, we uncover extraordinary places, fascinating wildlife, and remarkable natural phenomena that prove our world is far more incredible than we often imagine. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next adventure.